All right. Welcome to the afternoon session. We'll be starting off with Catherine Katz Scott. She is a developer advocate, as it says on the screen, at Open Robotics. She'll be sharing a Open Robotics update on Kinetic, Galactic, and transition recommendations. Thank you, Kat.
Cool. So I'm good to take it away. Everyone can see everything. All right. Well, I'm not going to introduce myself a third time. So let's get to it. All right. So agenda. I have to break the bad news. Kinetic goes EOL. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Galactic update and some RMW stuff. I'm going to give you guys some data that can hopefully help persuade decision makers. Some transition resources, and then just some various events, errata stuff going on that's cool. All right, so this is my favorite chart. On the left is where we presently are in time. On the right is about 4 years in the future. And so on the left, we can see that it's a little gravestone if you can't tell, and it's a gravestone for Kinetic because Kinetic goes EOL pretty soon here. And then similarly, Dashing is about to go EOL. And then you kind of go through the middle of the chart in 2023, and we see that, oh, well, Melodic and Foxy are going EOL. And then on the right, in 2025, we see that Noetic is finally gone. At the bottom, I have our sort of tentative release schedule. So this year we got ROS-2 G-Turtle, which is now called Galactic, coming up. And then next year we'll have our next LTS release for ROS-2, which is H-Turtle. Just to call out a few things here, right? So on the left, Dashing and Kinetic are going away real quick here. Melodic is not that far off. It's 2 more years away. That's the end of ROS-1 with Python 2. You have 2 years to take care of Python 2 remaining. And then far on the right side is 4 years. You have 4 years left of official ROS-1 support. And you just need to be keeping in your head 2 years left for Python 2, 4 years left for ROS-1. We'd really hope you get everything done before that. Down here, I'm not going to open this up, but David Lou was nice enough to put together a little clock webpage where you can go and check what's going on. All right, so let's get to the bad news. Kinetic Kame is officially EOL at the end of the month. The last update is the end of April, probably the 30th. Please, 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 if you maintain packages, do a sync. Do your last sync. Get all of those pull requests merged, get them in. And really, like, if you're stuck at Kinetic at this point, if you just want to bump over to Melodic, it really shouldn't be too hard. Everything should be there. But the good news is for the slackers, we got some good news. Last week, Canonical and Open Robotics announced that we are teaming up, and so Canonical is going to start offering extended security maintenance for ROS, particularly like ROS Kinetic. So they'll be giving out security patches and like professional support. And realistically, this is just a step towards a more industry-friendly ROS. There's basically a professional option, especially once things go EOL. I will say we don't want this to be considered an excuse for avoiding upgrades. This is more if you are running mission critical systems and want somebody on call to help you out with issues as they arise. This is really what that's tailored towards. If you want more details, I'm not going to belabor this too much, but you can go to this link down here, and that should get you started. Okay, so let's get into the new cool stuff. ROS-2 Galactic, Geochelone, I think that's how you say it, which is our release this year. This is a non-LTS release, so I don't think most people here will end up using it. It's basically scheduled for the 23rd of next month. And the big thing you need to be aware of is there's going to be a new default RMW, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the future. It's just a default. Don't panic about RMW switches. We're trying to make that super easy. I've actually put the entire list of all of the features that are going to be in ROS Galactic down here. You also get a teaser for what the new logo is going to look like. That's super cropped down to just a turtle face. Generally, like the quick, like 2-minute version of what's going to be in Galactic. Lots of logger love. So like there's going to be per logger levels, a bunch of like changes to environment variable logger settings. The other big one is external QoS settings. So you can like, start up a system with particular QoS settings. Like if you're running in one environment and then, I don't know, running in the lab and suddenly you go out to like, running on 4G or 5G radio, then you can probably change around your QoS settings fairly easily. There's also the other one I saw, a big thing was that there's a big TF2 Python refactor, and then just general work around RMW API improvements, and that's sort of facilitating your ability to switch between different RMWs. One more, there was RCL, lifecycle state machines. There's a new initialization API. I mean, by and large, if you go through the feature list and the releases, it kind of, there's some new features, but a lot of it's just the like, I don't want to say 100 grit, but like 200 grit sandpaper sanding of the API, like getting a few more of those rough edges off, getting things really put together for the next LTS release. So it's nothing huge, which is fundamentally good at this point, which means things are settling down quite a bit. And again, all of the details here are at ROS, bit.ly/ROS-Galactic. You can see what's up. The cool thing about naming it Galactic, I don't know if this is going to happen. It might happen. Well, I don't know if they're going to use Galactic, but we got word, and there was actually an article yesterday in MIT Tech Review. NASA and JPL are considering using ROS basically for the ground control and ground processing software for the Viper mission to the moon. So this is and I'm not speaking on behalf of NASA here or JPL, but essentially what they're doing is they're taking they're sending a probe to the moon. It's going to be driving around on the moon. Once it beams data back to Earth, all of that data processing is going to happen using ROS-2. I think this is a step towards using more open source in space. And for us, it's just sort of, wow, we actually are at the level where people think this is ready for these sorts of systems. And you can get more details here at ROS2-space. So that's really exciting. We might have Galactic running on the moon. I'm super excited about that. Like I said, the big difference between Foxy and Galactic is that we're switching up the RMW layer. Essentially what we've decided to do is with every ROS release, we're going to go through a process of for lack of a better word, we're going to be consumer reports for DDS, right? We're going to go and evaluate all of the different DDS vendors, at least all the open source DDS vendors, and sort of create a report saying, hey, we tried all the different DDS versions. We put them through a battery test. We looked at like what the user base says. We looked at like how their development is going, and the TSC is going to make a decision on which one we think is a good default. And I need to be very, very clear. This is a default. This is for, hey, I want to run this on a Turtlebot. How's it going to run on a Turtlebot? Is it going to do everything on my home Wi-Fi network? What that means for end users perhaps is, that default may not be good for you, which is totally fine. Your mileage may vary. You'll have to actually evaluate, the different vendors and figure out which one works for you. But we're just picking a fault and providing a bunch of data so you can make a good decision. And this very likely could change with HTurtle and subsequent releases. We did a whole bevy of like simulated tests, real world tests along with all of this, and it's all published in like a 100-page report that you can find right there. And if you get a minute, I'd highly recommend you go there and just sort of see what's up. All right, so let's talk about where we are in terms of ROS2 transition. I gotta move a little thing here. Okay, so like a couple days ago, I pulled all of the download data off packages.ros.org. This is one of the metrics we use internally for sort of tracking transitions, tracking ROS users, seeing who's using what. And so it's a little backwards, but on the left, you have 2020. On the right, you have 2019 for the whole year of packages.ros.org. And it's worth noting here that this is only our binary serve. This doesn't include VMs. This doesn't include mirrors. This doesn't include Docker containers. It is solely the downloads that we serve. And so what you can see is basically over the course of a year, kinetic use has halved. Melodic use has not quite doubled, but pretty close to it. And ROS2 has gone, from something like 2.5% of downloads to like 11.7%. So that's a pretty good uptake, right? It's almost like not quite 5x growth. I mean, it was pretty small to start with, so small numbers growing quickly isn't a big deal, but I think this is a pretty good indicator that people are really picking stuff up. And I would also guess that this, like, people sitting at Noetic are just sort of waiting in the wings, maybe for one more LTS release. The numbers get even better if I do it for March of last year of 2020 to March 2021. So if we look at March of 2020 to March 2021, we can see that right now we're only serving, Kinetics is only like less than 20% of the downloads going on. Noetic is getting in the range of 20% of the downloads. So that's a huge jump from the prior year. I mean, it effectively went from 0 to 20% of the packages being served. And then, most importantly, we are now at almost 25% of the packages being served being ROS2, which I think is a big indicator. It's really, we're on the steep part of the curve of the transition over to ROS2. I just did the aggregate download packages. So in 2019, there were just a little bit over 250 million package downloads we served up. 2020, it has almost doubled to 500,000. If we keep at this rate, 2021 will be the year we hit 1 billion downloads served a year, and we'll be in the like 3 commas club, which I think is pretty exciting for the growth of ROS. And again, this just includes the packages that we serve. This is not our mirrors, the VMs, or any sort of containers. That's just straight binaries. And we're at just shy of doubling year over year. Just for information, I also pulled the top 20 packages from 2020. Most of these are things that you would imagine would be there. Catkin, cross distro, melodic TF2, image transport, stuff like that. I think somewhere in here is RQT. Take note of that because I'll have some stuff to say about that later. So if you are on the group of people who have not transitioned over to ROS2 and you're worried about it, you're like, how am I going to pitch this to my boss? How long is it going to take? You have a lot of anxiety around, oh God, I don't know how much work this is going to be. So there's a tool to help do this. We actually put together, Chris put together a script that basically grabs through your source code, looks for various features, looks for code patterns, kind of looks at the rough outline of your various packages, and will give you a porting estimate. And essentially that porting estimate is like, will this package be easy? Will this package be medium, as in like it may take a week or so to port, or will be hard? Are we talking like a month? So if you go to this link down here, ROS2 port help, I have another link with all this stuff too. You can go and run this. This is a lifesaver. Like I was working on a project, basically porting essentially autonomous vehicle from ROS1 to ROS2. And we were able to, I installed the source. I hadn't even built the source. I run the script and dump it to file. And I just have this wonderful CSV file that I can then hand to my project manager and say, this is what it's going to take. So it's a super handy tool if you are still on that, I don't know if I'm ready to transition. I also put together just a quick list of the top 24 links you kind of need to know about to do a ROS2 transition. So it's stuff like that tool. There's an couple of automated porting tools from the community. I think one's from Amazon, one's from David Liu. I can't speak to their quality, but they kind of do the real simple find replace stuff for you as far as I could tell. There's a bunch of videos, there's a bunch of guides, there's guides to the ROS2 or ROS1, ROS2 bridge. It's just everything that you could link or think you would need, all in one easy to find place. So if you go here, it's a very easy way to kind of get started with your ROS2 transition. All right, so that's the quick summary on ROS2. So kind of at the Errata stage. So the big news is ROSCon is back this year. We are pretty sure we're going to do it in person. I mean, this is all COVID pending, but we think since it's late in the year, like the end of October, um, we should be able to have an event. It's going to be in New Orleans, so it'll be in person, plus there'll be a live stream. If you're like not quite ready to leave the house yet, that's fine. I just wanted to let everyone know the call for papers is open, the call for workshops is open, the call for sponsors is open. And so if you're interested in any of those things, head over to roscon.ros.org and all the information should be there. Other errata, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, we released Ignition Edifice. And again, this is a non-LTS release, but holy moly, there is a ton of stuff in here and it's worth checking out. Just sort of motivated by all the projects we have going on, related to say like DARPA sub-T and a few other efforts. There's just a ton of new features in Ignition. Like I'm not going to list them all because it's really about 2 or 3 pages of really cool features like new sensors, new rendering capabilities. We have a couple of demo environments to get started. We did a fairly large tutorial party a few weeks ago, so there's should be working tutorials for all these things. There's video demos of a lot of the components. Like this is like the changes are so big and they're so good. I would say this is the rare case where you might actually want to try, take a look at the non-LTS version of Ignition because it's really good. And everything you'd want is basically right here in that link. While we're talking about the other projects, not ROS, we had an article in Wired maybe about a month ago about the third open robotics project, which is RMF, we call it the Robot Meta Framework. We don't talk about this a lot, but this is basically what most of the Singapore office works on. And what it is in like a short 2-second summary is we're building a layer on top of ROS for fleet management, and particularly for heterogeneous fleet management along with infrastructure integration. So, the sort of example we have right now is how can we have 2, 3, 4 different fleets of robots moving around in, say, a hospital environment and then interacting with things like the elevators or, automatic doors and that sort of thing. So this is, I don't want to say it's a nascent development, but it's sort of this third line of work that's starting to emerge. And you might want to go like take a look and see if that's something that interests you, especially if you're doing like AMR work. All right, so when we were chit-chatting, one thing that came up is how do I hire ROS engineers? And I get frequently asked like, where do I hire ROS engineers? And the quick answer I have is that if you go to ROS Discourse, we have a jobs topic. If you're looking for ROS engineers, feel free to post in there. I encourage you, please post as much as you want. Have your recruiter list everything they want in there. It's great. It's not going to spam the main topic too much. The other side of this, though, is I've been doing a lot of work, and I think a few other people have been doing a lot of work. Good ROS engineers don't emerge out of undergrad fully formed. Like we have to, we can publish as many, as much documentation as we want and tutorials, but we're really not going to get good engineers unless we sit down and work with them and start training them early. And so there's a lot of different things going on right now that you should consider working on, especially if you want to, meet young people that are interested in the field and help them develop their skills. Right now there is anti-autonomous challenges going on. I know they would love to have, professional engineers working with some college teams building these autonomous race cars. Am I running along? Oh, 1 minute? Okay, we'll go really quick here. Yeah, there's that. There's F110th. I have some Black and Robotics workshops going on, and then we also have ROSCon Diversity Salvage. Other thing, RQT. We need some RQT maintainers. This is a huge ROS package. If you have some time to spare, please consider donating some help to RQT. We really need more maintainers right now, and there's a call for maintainers out. Finally, every Friday, I've been publishing basically a ROS recap of all the news, all the packages, all the events. all the papers, anything that's going on in ROS that week. You can go to ROS Discourse, check it out, read it over the weekend, or read it on Monday morning over coffee. We're just trying to get the community more involved and give them a better understanding of what's going on. Cool. That's it.